Wars. What the hell has happened to Star Wars? Well, we know. Yeah, we know. It's a sad story. Yeah, George Lucas sold it to Disney and put Kathleen Kennedy in charge. And, well, then she destroyed his baby, stabbed him in the back, really. So, you know, basically she runs in, surrounds herself with a bunch of yes, ladies, I guess, mostly. And some men, and who had no skill, no talent, no ability for character development or plot at all, and produced crap, shielded by identity politics. And this is a template that you see over and over again in current Hollywood, because it's not just Star Wars, it's all just about every franchise you can name, and it's produced failure after failure. And but Star Wars was the biggest one. And so Star Wars looked shiny at the beginning because of its powerful brand name and that attraction, but then it was diminishing every project that came out, except Mandalorian, which swooped in and seemingly saved it from its terrible disaster caused most notably by the hydrogen bomb to the franchise that The Last Jedi was. And came in and even had me thinking there was hope for Star Wars. Certainly with its, season 2 ending, a return of Luke Skywalker. But the numbers for Mandalorian were good even before that. And so Favreau seemed to be the man to come in and save the day. But then it got sabotaged after that great victory of the ending of season 2. Maybe a month later, the Gina Carano gets fired. And not just fired, I mean, destroyed. I mean, they smeared her, lied about her, defamed her. It was absolutely horrible. And so it just shows what kind of people you're dealing with here. Very nasty and rotten. Well, we kind of already knew that. So you almost had me back in, and then you do that. And so once again, Star Wars was severely damaged. The thing about it that came in with that, what Favreau managed to do with a very simple show, really, was to restore interest in the product that was so badly damaged. Was that the biggest problem that Star Wars has that it can't ever really fix, was that they missed that Beatles reunion moment of the original cast in the sequel trilogy. Yeah, they were there, but then they kind of weren't, were they? And they were only there to be trashed and ruined. Primarily Luke Skywalker, of course. And it was disgusting. And unfortunately, the moment is now gone. That has closed, and you can't get it back. Sadly, Carrie Fisher passed away, and so you can't get the band back together again. So you had this moment, the obvious thing to do, even if it had been a very simple story or something like that, and yet you missed that. These are people whose heads are firmly inserted in their rectums. So what to do? Well, it's still this brand, and it's do you drop it entirely? There's still people who are deeply in love with Star Wars. They're all hurting a lot, and so there was potential there for a successful brand. It's never going to be what it could have been and what it was. I mean, again, getting it back to what it was is kind of impossible too. I mean, it was lightning in a bottle at the moment of its time and that sort of thing. But it could have been so much more. But man, it's some deep scars on it now. But a guy like Favreau could right the ship, and had he been left alone to do what he was doing, Star Wars would be in much better shape than it currently is. So, Kathleen's gonna get fired, right? By all metrics of sanity, she should have been let go a long time ago. But Hollywood is not sane. And so Kathleen Kennedy has been a staple in there for a very long time, and she has a protection of Steven Spielberg, who is a very powerful man within there, even though he's not directly producing anything for Disney and what have you. In fact, he just signed up a deal for Netflix. But anyway, so the idea that she would, be publicly humiliated and fired and pack your things and get out type of deal, like the rest of us have to put up with when we screw up. No, that wasn't going to happen. But would she have any say-so going forward? And so far, it seems she did. I mean, she managed to sabotage Favreau with the Carano firing and all that sort of stuff. She pushed her High Republic thing, which everyone mocked and hated. It's a colossal failure. The Acolyte TV series, which is, according to its showrunner, is just going to be about lesbians, I guess. I don't know. That's all she ever talks about. Of course, she's a true Star Wars fan because she loves all of them. Yes, that's how that works. So she's got that, but what say-so does she have? There's all these rumors that her power has been greatly limited, that she doesn't have creative control over Mandalorian and that sort of thing, and these other shows. But the problem there is she seemed to have creative control who can be in the show, so has that changed? So what to look for? And there has been some signs that the odds are now against her. And, a lot has changed. We've had a terrible year, which kind of forces things too. Eventually, you have to give up the fantasies of wokedom, and you got to actually make some money. One of the big metrics for Star Wars failure is the merchandise, and the merchandise has always been the key to Star Wars. That's one of the big sources of income for it, and they're terrible. They're dismal when it comes to the sequel trilogy and whatnot. The only bright spot, it was Mandalorian. Yeah, so there you are. That kind of spells it all out, doesn't it? So lately there was a Forbes article that just blatantly said that the firing of Gina Carano was foolish and stupid and shows poor management, and that's a shot. Who's in charge? Why, it's Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah. So lately there's been another article from The Atlantic, and basically you have to conclude from that Favreau's the big savior of Star Wars, and the one who screwed up was Kathleen Kennedy. Doesn't say it blatantly, but it is the conclusion. So there is something of a split when it comes to people on YouTube and whatnot talking about Star Wars, and some are so burnt by it that there's no future to it. On the other side, there's people like, most notably, Doomcock, and then there's Midnight's Edge, and their frequent guest, Cameron Pasha, who, at the very least, agree that there's trouble for Kathleen Kennedy. The other side is that she's never going to get fired. She's too powerful and whatnot. She will leave eventually. Would it be a public outing of her being fired? No, I don't think that would happen. She would just retire. One of the aspects that kept coming up is that they're going to let her oversee Indiana Jones 5, and that'll be her swan song, possibly. And, I don't know, she'll get a Lifetime Achievement Award and stuff like that. It doesn't mean anything, but they'll try to make it as, pretty as possible. But the signs of that her vision, such that it was for Star Wars, is going to continue, that seems to be over. But, how many of her people remain? How many of that ideas go on? Because Disney signed off on all of this. And so it is a concern of how are good things ahead. So the article went into, it made the point it talked about what Star Wars was about, what it offered was action and escapism, and all that stuff, telling you what it was, which you already know, and the story of Luke and all that. And that was the heart and soul of it. So now, then it says Star Wars is now at a turning point. Turning point? Well, why would that be? Because it's a colossal failure now. So, though early acclaim and profits were impressive, which of course was the strength of the brand, Force Awakens was a very successful film. But then people look back at it and say, that's just it's just a cheap ripoff of New Hope. And yes, that's all it was. But that was nothing compared to the horrible damage that Last Jedi would bring, and that was it. It was over after that. So it goes to 2019, dismayed reviews and relatively soft ticket sales greeted the rise of Skywalker. which again, Rise of Skywalker, like Solo before it, in Rise of Skywalker, Solo is a masterpiece compared to Rise of Skywalker. Because Rise of Skywalker was in this terrible position. And why? Because of Last Jedi. So both films paid for the sins of Last Jedi. And again, after Last Jedi, it was over. So the finale of the trilogy set 30 years after the action of the first films. Around that time, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced a movie-making hiatus for Star Wars. Well, gee, why would you do that if everything's great? It's not great, that's why. So had Lucas's galaxy lost its power, or had its new steward simply mismanaged it? The recent success of a remarkable Star Wars television series suggests the latter. Yeah, see, that's the key thing here. So there you go. It's, it's just asking a question. No, it's concluding. Yes, the answer to this is yes. The stewards mismanaged it. So the thing about the Atlantic doing this, and Cameron Pasha talks about this, and then he has his tweet, I wonder how much my Lucasfilm stalker is going to have a job after this. It likes deeply connected to the Hollywood Club. This article is a decapitation move by Chapek against Kathleen Kennedy. Doomcock was right. And I kind of predicted it too on Midnight's Edge. Yeah, so there you go. It's not all cheery and comfy for Miss Kennedy here. And so he's right. This is, and he's, Cameron Pasha has been in the game. He's, written for television and all that. Plus he had written as a journalist. And so he understands from the inside out of what the purpose of these articles are and how it's trying to set the stage. Had they just, fired Kathleen Kennedy, even though you understand the sanity in that, the world they live in, and the minefield that they live in, she could do serious damage to them. And of course, Bob Chapek might even have to resign. Somebody say, well, he's a misogynist. He fired all women when he fired Kathleen Kennedy, that kind of thing. Just look at Hollywood. You would think, oh, that's ridiculous. She did a bad job. She should go. No, that's not how that works. So you have to conclude that Chapek's the one doing this. He got humiliated immediately when he got the job, because then Bob Iger, he had to come back in for a bit to right the ship and all this sort of stuff. But Chapek was always described as the bean counter, and not really, he's not as flashy a character as Iger was. But bean counter has to deal with the metrics of reality, math. And so there was articles about he's in charge of a restructuring of Disney, all these things. Well, why would you need to do that? Everything's sunny. It's not. Of course, ultimately they'll blame COVID and all that, but still, these are some of the signs that lends credibility to the ideas that Kennedy, certainly her power over Lucasfilm, is diminished, and her days there could be numbered. So it goes on. This is the critical consensus that emerged. It was the best live-action Star Wars product to arrive since the early 80s, that being, Mandalorian. The sublime feeling of immersion that laced Lucas's early movies reemerges. That's another part, because the thing about identity politics and all that, it's so blatantly obvious, it kicks you out of the movie. Whereas the original Star Wars, it sucked you into this world that didn't really exist. But that's the point of escapism. And Star Wars provided that brilliantly. And these movies just refuse to do it. So whenever Star Wars films have faltered, with audiences, commentators have blamed shoddy storytelling, the needless complexity of Lucas's prequels, the inconsistent logic of Disney sequels. So this is trying to kind of save face that there was, a lot of harsh criticism about the prequels, but that pales in comparison to this. So nice try. They're trying to kind of pretty up the takedown, but that's the world they live in. So even though the objective here is, Kennedy screwed up, she's got to go. That's what the point of the article is. But you try to sweeten the pot a little, make it not hurt so much. A little sugar with the medicine. So Disney sequels are too frantically paced and too packed with winks to old Star Wars films for viewers to settle in with new sets, creatures. Well, see, that's the problem they also had. This business of the new characters, and you got to move on to a new generation and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's a no-brainer in the sense that this would be a new generation of characters, because that's how the films were all along. Especially when the prequels come in, you set that whole thing up where it's supposed to be a family saga and all that. The sequels don't really fulfill that at all. And the problem is, it shows that they didn't have faith and confidence in their own characters. There was literally a baseball, I forget the name of the writer, was going on about Luke Skywalker was a problem because when he tried to write him into the script, he sucked all the oxygen out of the room because he's such a large character. But that's showing you don't have the ability to give depth and to your own character. That's something for the audience to latch onto. Poor Rey never got a story, until the last minute. Guess what? She's a Palpatine. It's just, and yet she's the lead. She's the new hero, and you gave her nothing. You gave her godlike powers that she just happened to figure out just because, and all this stuff. All she had done all her life was live in a desert and collecting trash from dilapidated Imperial destroyers. And then suddenly she knows how to take over a stormtrooper's mind, and it was terrible and bad. But that was the idea, that she had to be, the Mary Sue-ism for Rey is that, she was perfect and wonderful and everyone loved her, and she was super duper powerful, and that's that. And nothing else. She gets no story. So, that's one of the big failures of it. They had moments where Finn almost has a story. That he's being set up in Force Awakens and all that. He was actually the most interesting character of the bunch. And then he's completely mocked and destroyed in Last Jedi. So it wasn't just the old characters. Oh, no. And then, of course, you got the whole, the idea that Disney's going to lecture anybody on any kind of moral questions, whether it's racism or sexism, after what they did to the character of Finn and what they did to his image on a poster for the advertisement of the movie in China. Yeah, Disney has no credibility on lecturing anybody on any of those matters. But that's another story. If the miracle of the Mandalorian continues, well, someone threw a grenade into it, so viewers of future seasons will only rarely notice an undetermined hand of fate guiding the action. Over-determined. They'll instead continue to be caught up in the individual moments. Yeah, well, you're going to have to fix that Gina Carano episode there. And the only way to do that is to negotiate a deal for her to come back and fulfill something. I seriously doubt that they would follow up on her getting her own show like she was supposed to and all that sort of stuff. But these things take time. I know people are upset and a bit irritated that Jon Favreau didn't seem to show more spine and muscle in this and stand up for her. She did say in her interview with Ben Shapiro that, yes, people did stand up for her, but they lost. And so there's no civil war. There's a civil war in there. It's just some people had more power than others. So again, takes time. A lot of this stuff that Kennedy was in charge of, it takes years to get this stuff going and in production and all that. And so the Acolyte's coming. That's going to happen. The New Republic happened and all that. And Acolyte's supposed to be a part of that. So it could be another year, maybe two, before things really start to show signs of change and whatnot. But a big one, how would they handle that for Gina Carano to come in? Unless they're going to lie and say, oh, Kennedy, she didn't decide that. But who did? Somebody. Who else has the power to do this? But that's a really nasty stain on it, because it isn't just that they let her go. They could have just let her go, and that was that. She just doesn't come back to the Mandalorian show, and that's it. But no, you had to smear her name like that and lie about her, which, yeah, you've got some really nasty people surrounded in there, and if you want to be respected and trusted, you got to deal with that. You got to clean your house. So that's a hard one to come back to. First, you had the hydrogen bomb of Last Jedi. You screwed up the Beatles reunion, and now you had something that showed some signs of promise, and then you sabotaged your own product. It's very hard to suggest to come back, even if Favreau takes over and is in charge. You got to deal with that. You do that, you can count me impressed. But overall, is there credibility to what the likes of Doomcock and Cameron here and Midnight's Edge talk about? Yes. Yes, there is. Rumors are rumors, but you have to weave through what's credible and what stands to reason. Now, granted, standing to reason doesn't always work when it comes to Hollywood, because yes, in a sane world, she should have been let go a long time ago. That's just common sense. But still, you do weave the nature of what's possible and what could be in the nature of rumors and what have you, based on what you do know. And that's how that works. And also, it's important to keep in mind how slow this could be. And also trends in Hollywood. You still got product coming out that's, hyper woke and stuff, the stupid Karen movie and all that stuff. You still got to see some of that, even though I think the days of that trend reigning supreme are long gone. And so Hollywood's a little slow to reflect that, because it takes time to make things. So that's how that works out. So I don't think it's fair to completely shut the door on Favreau just yet, but yeah, he's got to respond to what happened with Miss Carano, and the best thing to do is try to get her back, which may not be possible. I don't know. She may not really even want to. You've been treated that badly, even though it wouldn't be his fault. It's, you lure her back in to get stabbed in the back again, that would be pretty tough. So it's understandable if she's of that opinion. Who knows? But, well, she knows. But time will tell. It is a pretty nasty thing. And it is something you can do something about. You can't fix, the missed opportunity of the Beetlejuice. You can't. That's done. The other rumor that, that he's going to rewrite the sequel trilogy, which, of course, is a very significant point. Even if he keeps producing great Mandalorian shows and all that sort of stuff, and the Obi-Wan show is great and all that, it all leads to the sequel trilogy. So, will the World Between Worlds time warp element be used to fix it? It still seems a bit far-fetched to me. I'd be all for it, but it's just one of these dumb things you got to do to fix bad story. And everybody knows it was bad. It just was. And it's, you can only go so far in the past. Your franchise has to have a future, and the one you gave it stinks. So if there's any way to clean that up, and you got to come up with some writers who got some clever twists and turns to make that really entertaining and make it work out overall, that'll be fine. And narratively, you can do that. It's just the sad state of affairs that you can't do it with that great Beatles reunion that Lucasfilm just deliberately missed. Anyway, are we all caught up now? Yes, I think we are. Well, it is, of course, as always, to be continued in matters of Star Wars. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.